All right. What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? This isn't going to be long, but as you know, I really love watching all the board meetings and uh, tea with the trustees and the committees of the whole, uh, such as they were. And I came across this board meeting from October 19th, 2017. And shout out to Conscious. I will put the link in the chat for reminding me because I went to their page and I really remembered what this actual board meeting and what was being said. So, Dalton, look, you all need to pay attention to what's really going on in your village. This is not so much about the person, it's about the seat. Remember that the game doesn't change, only the players. I don't have a dog in any of the voter races, so this is just for informational purposes for the residents who want to somehow maintain your village as an actual village. So that's what this is about. I wasn't going to go live because I don't want to distract from the actual point of presenting this video. And shout out to the trustee who brought a lawyer to this meeting, Duane Muhammad. Shout out Duane. Hashtag where is Duane Muhammad? That's who I would love to talk to. Not just and just to get an understanding of what's happening, not to talk about anyone or any, body in particular, because that's not even what it is. But that's if I wanted to talk to anyone, if I were, well, I'm a past resident and a person with family still throughout the township and in Dolton as well. I would love to get his perspective on where to go with this, not which candidate to support, not which person is right or wrong, but a clear understanding of what is going to happen if we go broke, which again, this video is 2017, October 19th. So, and they predicted in this video 4 years is going to be like 4 or 5 years, but I'm going to let it play. But really, for the residents, what happens to you? I would like to know what this means for the village. And I think Duane Muhammad might be the one to give the probably the most honest answer since he brought this lawyer to the meeting. So here it is.
We have Mr. Vincent Kankar here. Okay, first ordinance is item A, ordinance number 17-036, an ordinance levying taxes for general and corporate purposes for the 2017 tax year beginning May 1st, 2017 and ending April 30th, 2018 for the village of Dalton, Cook County.
Can I be recognized, Mayor?
Go ahead.
I'd like to introduce to the residents in this board, Attorney Vincent Kankar, and I'd like to give an overview of his resume. I won't give all of it. Vincent Kankar is part of the Kankar Law Offices, and presently the following units of local government that the Kankar Limited as their regular appointment attorneys are City of Burbank, Hickory Hills, Hometown, Witeska, Alsip, Bridgeview, Evergreen Park, Justice, Mantino, McCook, Alsip Park District, Bourbon Park, Burbank, Park District, Calumet Memorial Park District, Stickney Park District, Hazel Crest Park District, Hodgkins Park District, McCook Park District, Pleasantdale Park District, Tri-State Park District, Central Stickney Fire Protection District, Village of Summit Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, South Lyons Township Sanitary District, Stickney Township, Stickney Public Health District, West Suburban Water Commission, River Valley Metro Mass Transit District. Many other units of government also use the firm in specialized areas where their general counsel does not have required expertise. The firm is listed in the bond buyer as a nationally recognized tax-exempt bond counsel whose opinions can be relied upon throughout the country in the Hazel Crest Park District, Hodgkins Park District, McCook Park District, Pleasantdale Park District, Tri-State Park District, Central Stickney Fire Protection District, Village of Summit Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, South Lyons Township Sanitary District, Stickney Township, Stickney Public Health District, West Suburban Water Commission, River Valley Metro Mass Transit District. Many other units of government also use the firm in specialized areas where their general counsel does not have required expertise. The firm is listed in the bond buyer as a nationally recognized tax-exempt bond counsel whose opinions can be relied upon throughout the country in the sale of tax-exempt bonds, securities, tax-exempt leases, and installment purchase contracts. Over the past 20 years, his firm has written the bond opinion on more than, let me make sure this is right, Mr. Kankar, $1,200,000,000 of bonds involving at least 250 transactions. A specialty is the issuance of tax-exempt bonds within tax increment financing districts. The firm represents many municipalities with respect to tax increment districts, including their establishment, maximizing incremental property taxes, redevelopment agreements, and annual TIF district compliance reports. And with that, I give you Mr. Vincent Kankar.
Thank you, Trustee.
Okay, so I stopped because if that bored you, that was basically an overview of Vincent Kankar, this person's qualifications to be able to help Dalton understand the state that they were in. So we'll timestamp that 7 minutes if you want to go past the introduction, but that's basically his qualifications. Let's go. Period.
Mohammed. My remarks to the audience and to the board this afternoon are going to be general remarks and backed up by some facts and some figures, which have been passed out, which will appear on the teleprompter up on top. I've been working in the past 3 years with Yvonne in the finance department, trying to work through paying the bills of the village. Unfortunately, the finances of the village are in bad shape. Okay, we're here today, and I'm going to tell you, we're at the bottom. If the board does not take action today, it's going to be too late to do anything in the future. It's just as plain and simple as that. We've been able to piece things together for 2 or 3 years, sell a 1-year bond every year to get some money in the village to pay some items off. But right now, I mean, if you get too far behind on the scavenger bills, the garbage is going to pile up in the streets. If you get too far behind in your paramedic bills, there's not going to be any paramedics to answer the calls for emergencies. You won't be able to pay your employees. It's the end of the line, and I don't know how to say it other than that. And even worse, there's been legislation which was passed about 4 years ago at the state level, which provides that if you do not provide proper funding for your pension funds, the pension funds can now file in Springfield to take your revenues, your sales tax and your income tax, before it even gets to the village. So they can intercept it ahead of you, and it goes right to the pension fund. One of the major financial problems you have is the tax collections in the village. Right now, your total tax levy, including bonds, is about $11 million, $12 million a year, somewhere in that range. Because of poor tax collections, on the $12 million total taxes, the village does not receive $2.5 million of that. They receive about $9.5 million out of $12 million. And they receive that by December 1st of the year. Well, unfortunately, on December 1st, they have to make payments on their bonds, and the money's not there, and it will never be there. I mean, at best, your real estate tax collections are about 86% of every dollar you levy.
Y'all hear that? So, in 2019, it's like, you're not going to get it. You're never going to catch up. I'm sorry. I said 2019. I mean 2017. You're not going to catch up. You're not. So, if you're not going to catch up because of this, what happens? But let's continue.
So you're never going to catch up doing what you've been doing. And it's not your fault. The tax collections are something you have no control over. And the only way to resolve that is to ask the county clerk to put a larger tax loss factor in on the tax levy. And that's what the ordinances I presented to you before today do. They have a minor increase in the tax levy, and then they ask the county clerk to set the tax levy loss at where it should be. And the other part of the problem, though, is the past boards. Some of the people are on those boards, some of them weren't. Your tax levy, and the first chart up there, is the comparison of tax levies from 2010 to 2016 in South suburban areas. Well, you can see in the village of Dolton, in that 6-year period, the taxes have gone up 7.09%. That's 6 years. That's about 1% a year. I mean, nobody can live on 1% a year, especially when you don't collect the full 1%.
Okay, so do you hear that? It's like, it's not your fault. Taxes are not being collected on properly. If this was 2017 and taxes weren't being collected on properly, how do you dig yourself out of that? Question: did this ordinance get passed? That's the question. It's not a mysterious question, but does anybody know? Did this ordinance get passed? Did any of these ordinances discussed in the Dolton Trustee meeting get resolved? First person that answers the question gets a $20 gift card to a grocery store that is in your area. Let's continue.
In the old days, when a house was in foreclosure, the mortgage company would pay the tax bill because they know they're going to get that house back. They no longer do that. When a house is in foreclosure now, many times the mortgage companies do not pay the tax bills. And they don't pay them because the tax bills get too high and the property is not worth what the tax bill is. And so what we've done in the ordinances of today is there's nothing extravagant in here. We've basically asked the trustees to pass the ordinances, the result of which would be about a 3.83% increase in the tax bill. And then you're going to have to go through the process of tax levy every year. And my recommendation is to do the 4.9% increase, which is really not a 4.9% overall. It's just on your tax levy part. The village realizes they can't sit back and do nothing. And that's where it's been in the past. Everybody was afraid to tackle the problem because the problem is huge. And it is a very huge problem. And it's very difficult to understand. But you, as the elected leaders of this community, have to make that decision. I mean, that's what the people elected you for. I mean, you have to determine the level of services that you're going to provide to the people of the village of Dolton.
very good point. I think that is a very good point. One of the reasons that I believe uh, former trustee Duane Muhammad brought Mr. Kankar, excuse me, to the meeting to inform the residents what you're in for and how to stay in control of your village. Now, what I heard was there was a kind of a fear, or I don't know if that's the correct word, but basically a lack of movement at best on raising the tax levies. So if everyone was kind of leery to say, hey, we've got to raise some taxes, and this has gone on for years and years and years and years, I don't know how this is one person's problem. However, we don't focus on the problem. We should be focusing on the solution. And it seems that this man had at the very least, a good solution based plan. But, and I don't want to come to any conclusions before I finish this meeting, but is it that you guys hear taxes raised and automatically, without doing the research, as your mayor says, do your research? But why would your taxes be going up? What is the reason? What does this help? What doesn't this help? Everything is not about what does this money go to? Is this money going to this person or that person? Paying your taxes and making sure that your taxes match the cost of living and the way that you want to live is imperative. So even when you hear the word taxes raised, you got to break that down to how much is your taxes going to be raised. Break it down dollar for dollar, by the year, by the month, by the week, by the day. Okay? Break it down like that so that people can really understand what it means when someone says we're going to vote, or we need to vote to raise your taxes. Now, let's go ahead and continue. But I mean, it's just like it's the outrage of our taxes. You're a village. You're not a city. You're a village.
You have to make those choices. If the village continues like it's doing now, eventually there are no choices. The state will take you over, and then from there, who knows what's going to happen.
Could you explain further what it means exactly when you say the state will take over?
Well, the state took over, for example, the city of East St. Louis, because there's no money. They just put a financial board in place, and that board then makes the decisions that you make. That's what that means. It's like bankruptcy court in a way. You no longer have any control over what you do or what the residents want or do want. The state makes those decisions for you.
Wow. Okay. Now, before we continue, if the state is making, if this is what happens and the state will make the decisions for the trustees, basically, is what he just said, if the state has to step in, then the state is going to be the ones in control of the trustees, who's going to stay, who's going to go. basically taking the power away from the trustees. Now, if this was said, this is important because if this was said in 2017 on where this was headed, and everyone on this board, at least at this time, rest in peace, Trustee, I believe his name is Trustee Pearson. But we have former trustee Duane Muhammad, former trustee, looks like, uh, is that Valerie Stubbs? I'm not sure. This is a little bit blurry. We have current senior trustee Jason House. So I guess the person that would be applicable in this situation is Jason House. Jason House is here at this meeting. He is listening to the projection of what might happen with Dolton, but not only the projection, because once he talks about the state taking over and then they decide who stays and goes, and that means if whoever wins the mayor election, okay, 2025, whoever, fill in the blank, your favorite person. I'm not getting into that. So, fill in the blank, your favorite person just won for mayor. However, the village is bankrupt, so the state got to take over. So now, whoever the trustees are, they could decide to keep the trustees on, but then that's just for looks because they're not the ones making the decision. The state is. So now you just got a bunch of people up there looking like they represent something and what they are. If the state takes over at that point, the trustees are representing the village on behalf of the state because the state is the one who's going to decide. Now, if you have the next mayor who's in there and they say, "Oh, yes, this is the person that the state approves." Yes, I was silent for a reason. If this is the person that the state approves to be mayor in 2025, once they take over, hashtag why isn't anybody in jail? Because all of this has, I mean, they're still going to give you all your right to elections, but now you have to look at who's on the state's agenda and who's really for the village remaining a village. However, that is not what we're talking about here. We're mentioning that. That's not the focus of the discussion. The focus of the discussion are the facts here. And the facts are, if the state takes over the village of Dolton, they can decide whether to keep the trustees, whether the trustees go, who the contracts go to, who gets what. And so now we have to look at who's going to fight for Dolton under these conditions. And does it make sense, number one, for that person to be in alignment with what all residents want? So let's just continue. You all can leave your comments or not, or it's just something to think on because this is what's happening right now. I know that somewhere in this video, this man is going to make a projection of like 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years was 2021, 2022. That'll be our next video. I'm going to go into that because it's very interesting how everyone's asking, how did things change? Well, there was a 4 to 5 year projection. This was October 19th, 2017. We are in 2024 where bank accounts are being frozen. That's not because of anything new. That's a result of all of this. All of this is a culmination.
Greetings to the board, greetings to my fellow citizens and any other officials that may be in the building. What percentage of the homes in Dolton are currently under foreclosure or are going through some kind of bank procedure?
I do not know those numbers. I don't have availability.
Does anybody in this room have any idea what that is?
Yes, we have approximately 1,100 homes that are currently in pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, or bank sale. They're coming
And
out of those three categories.
that's out
Approximately
of-
1,100 in Dalton.
Out of how many homes? Because I don't know how many.
Out
total
of
homes.
about 8,000 to 9,000 homes,
So we're talking about
actual
10%.
households.
So we're talking 10%, 12%. Is there a way to get revenue from the banks to, kind of pad this a little bit, to take away some of our tax liabilities? I'm not trying to squeeze anyone, but it seems like that's one item that we may be able to look at and get some revenue from, because doing these foreclosure procedures, the houses are sitting there anyway. If you can find a way to maybe.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Lee. I'm gonna let you go, but it sounds like you're asking for the banks to somehow give money.
Levy them a little more heavy than we're leveraging ourselves, then maybe that might help some.
There technically a foreclosure action in court, which is what you're talking about. The transfer on a deed from a foreclosure is exempt from real estate transfer taxes by state law.
There it is. Wow.
So, it's a state law.
Okay. Well,
So you can't do that.
Okay, but how do we go about getting that changed? Is there a way, a procedure? Can the villages that are under financial stress get together and possibly petition the state or the legislature or the governor or the governor's candidates to change that law?
First of all,
Okay, before he answers that, now, if you didn't catch that, the answer was to his first question was no. We by law you can't do that. So God bless Mr. Lee goes directly into, can we change that? We are in, the village of Dolton is in a crisis. And you asked a valid question, and the answer is no. But the response is, well, can we change that law? I mean, and I'm not trying to say that's not a valid question. It is. It very much is. Can we change that law? Put that on the list of the things that you, and not you, I mean you all as a collective in the village want. And so I'm not going to say, but however, no, do that and listen to what can be done right now. But let's go. Can we change the law?
well, you'd be talking about a drop in the bucket. It would not solve your problems. Even if you sold 300 homes a year at $1,000 transfer, that's $300,000, and that is not. That doesn't resolve anything, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It's just a minor amount. And secondly, when you try and levy a transfer tax, you have to remember that you're going to be fighting against every bank and every financial institution that there is. And unfortunately, the pull of those banks and financial institutions is a lot more pull than the village of Dolton has.
Okay, well, how about this then?
Okay, now I think he explained that very clearly. And how about this then? Let's go.
Illinois' status as a donor state. We're sending $120 billion a year to the federal government right now, or something like that. And compare that to states like Indiana, which is sending 42 billion or under 50 billion to the federal government. I know this is a long haul, this is a long-term solution, but if we can equalize the donor state status of Illinois, we are number 47 out of 50 states that benefit from the money that we send to Washington. Indiana is somewhere like number 10. That is a huge difference, because I keep mentioning Indiana because a lot of us are taking our revenue over to Indiana, which is making the problem worse. I mean, yeah, we get our little sugar taxes and all that. Yeah, that's fine and dandy, but in the long term, we're cutting our own throat.
Well,
So
I would tell you that that's not going to be a solution. It's not going to happen. First of all, with Trump, okay, it's not going to happen.
Trump won't be there forever.
The count on the federal government changing it's not going to happen. And you don't have time. Besides that,
okay, I said long term. That's the key.
Right. You do not have time.
Are you here?
Okay.
Okay. He's saying, I'm gonna skip over all the Trump stuff. You are in our prayers over here, because no one deserves to be shot at. However, let's move on. We are here for the facts, and the fact is, in the short term, it's not gonna happen, and it's not gonna work, and we need to figure out what to do right now. But continue.
So how about this then? Right now, one of the gubernatorial candidates is currently pushing for the flat tax to be increased to a progressive tax, like our neighbors. That's another form of revenue that could possibly help. I know this is longer term than what we need, but what I'm trying to do is look down the road to avoid this, because I plan on leaving here for a little while.
Okay, and see, again, not to down Mr. Lee, because absolutely these are very much valid statements, valid things to put out there to figure out long-term solutions. And we're still right here, right now, on this day in 2017, trying to make sure that the state doesn't come in and take over. So there seems to be, I need to get my point across. And it's valid. They're valid. And what are we going to do right now, though? So.
Okay. So there are things that I think that we can start doing now. You have to take that first step. Just saying no to all long term is what got us in this in the first place.
He did not say no to all long term. What he keeps saying is you don't have time. I don't know. Am I the only person that heard that? Because why is this even an argument? He's the man, Mr. Ken Carr, said you don't have time. So to say you're saying no to everything long term, that's not even part of the argument here. No one's saying no. They're saying you don't have time.
Okay. So, I'm basically talking to the board and people that have connections and whatnot to people in the government. We need to start on some of these solutions now. Okay.
Now, before this, Mr. Kankar answers, you hear that? So I'm talking to the trustees and everyone up here, whoever's got connections. You all are a village. You're supposed to be your own connections, period. You're supposed to be your own connections. That's how it's supposed to go. What do you mean connections? Connections to whom? Connections to whom? That's how cities run, sir. You should know that. Connections to whom? Their connections are to each other. That's the whole point of being the village of Dolton. So this is where it's like, what connections? That's what we depending on now. Ooh, who knows somebody that's somebody, instead of depending on each other. But I'm gonna let Mr. Cam Carr answer, because I do not have the resume that man has. Well, probably neither of them. I'm just gonna keep it real, because I'm not trying to act like I'm smarter than anybody. I just hear two different things than what you're hearing, Mr. Lee. I hear this man saying we don't have enough time. So, and now I hear you saying, well, the people on the board, whoever y'all connections are, reach out to people and do what? Get us money? What, I mean, help us figure it out. Whatever it is that you mean, I don't mean that disrespectfully. I'm just saying, whatever it is that you're asking the village board to reach out for connections to outside of your village, who? But let the man answer.
Right now.
Well, the Lord helps those who help themselves. Okay, and you cannot count on a bailout from the state of Illinois or from. The Lord helps those who help themselves. Okay,
Wait,
and you cannot count on a bailout from the state of Illinois.
Are surrounding, like our neighbors. That's another form of revenue that could possibly help. I know this is longer term than what we need, but what I'm trying to do is look down the road to avoid this, because I plan on leaving here for a little while. Okay, so there are things that I think that we can start doing now. You have to take that first step. Just saying no to all long term is what got us in this in the first place. Okay. So, I'm basically talking to the board and people that have connections and whatnot to people in the government. We need to start on some of these solutions now.
Wow.
Right now.
Well, the Lord helps those who help themselves. Okay, and
I'm sorry, I almost spelled out my shit. This is funny because it's true. Because, Mr. Lee, it seems that you asked, did the board and anyone up there have connections to the government? Let me say that. Let me make sure I enunciate before I be a meme. You asked, could the board reach out to any connections that they may have in the government, when, again, you are a village. So the answer that this man gave you is funny because it's true. God helps those who helps themselves. Shout out Billie Holiday. God bless the chap that's got his own. That's wild. That's wild. Let's go.
wow.
Right now.
Well, the Lord helps those who help themselves. Okay, and you cannot count on a bailout from the state of Illinois or from the federal government. It's just not going to happen. State of Illinois is behind $20 billion in bills. Believe me, if they raise the income tax, it's not going to you. Okay, it's going to go to the state, and it's going to pay the bills at the state level. It's just not going to happen.
Well, in that case, I'm just glad you weren't around before we switched from horse and buggies to cars. I mean, if you don't have that attitude.
No, I don't have the attitude, but you have to be realistic. You have to
One person's realism is another person's reality. Right. Okay.
And you know what? That's true. However, which reality makes sense in real time? Mr. Lee, you're not listening. You're I don't know what this feelings thing y'all got going on. Feelings. Whoa, feelings. This man is not attacking what you're saying, Mr. Lee. He is really making valid points on what to do, how to change these ordinances or vote on the ordinances right now that will help avoid where Dolton is right now. And you just don't seem to be listening. And then here we go with the resorting to taking shots. This is where, I do see that some of this started. What's the point of that? Well, hurry out again. I mean, come on now. Really, when you do that, you're not paying attention to the facts. Why are we talking about realities? The fact is, the statistics that this man said, I did not hear him say no, no, no to you. I did not hear him say any of your ideas were not a good idea. The only thing that I did hear Mr. Kankar say to Mr. Lee was, we don't have time at this board meeting where this business is taking place. And I don't know if maybe that's the part that some of the residents may be missing, that long term, if we want to put that on the agenda or after this, then that would be a great idea. But one of the main reasons a board meeting happens is to discuss the business on the agenda. So to be talking about anything long term when the entire purpose of a board meeting is to discuss and vote on current items, old business, and then I believe there is new business. And for me, just looking at this would fall under new business. Can we figure out the ordinance? Can we figure out whether or not we're going to vote on that? Instead of doing this. This is where it devolves. Right here. Right here.
And so you're saying no, no, no. Okay, I understand what you're saying. This is an immediate problem, but I don't have any immediate solutions. Just like apparently, other than what you have already posted here on these, in this meeting. However, I do think that we're going to have to start looking forward and stop thinking small.
Put it under new business.
Because at some point, we're going to have to change, because we can't nickel and dime ourselves to death forever.
Good evening. I just wanted to ask a question to him. If the state takes over the village, now what will happen? Could you elaborate on that?
They would determine which contracts have priority and need to be fulfilled, and they would determine how much in taxes to levy. And so the state would do the same thing this board here does. They determine the level of services. They determine the tax levy. They would do the exact same thing, except they wouldn't be elected. They'd be appointed.
But you made a statement.
Hold on. See? Did anyone stop to listen? They would do the exact same thing that the board would do. But they wouldn't be elected. They'd be appointed. So, if we fast forward to 2025 and the state takes over, that means basically the state Democratic Party, because I believe everybody is Democrats that's running. But so whichever state run Democratic Party that might win would be elected to that seat. But none of the trustees would even It's like it's a toss up for them. Is that why everybody's scrambling? All the trustees could stay, but they wouldn't be elected. They'd be appointed. So, I guess if Tiffany stayed mayor 2025, she would be able to appoint everybody while people are focused on one or two people, or vice versa. Jason House would get in, possibly be able to appoint everybody, but would they? Either way, and that's my point. We're not even gonna get into this Tiffany versus who, but whoever gets in, would they be the ones to appoint, or would it be the Democratic Party who would help guide those decisions? And who are those players? That's not what this video is for. We're going to focus on this board meeting right here, where they're telling you the state is coming to take over.
And I think that if it's not done, the state could take over.
Sure.
So if they doing what the state could do, why would the state come in? That's all I'm asking.
You
The state,
confused me there.
You said that
If what now?
if the board
Right.
doesn't make it a suggestion to do the tax levy and
Right.
so forth, the state could come in and take over.
Correct.
You said the states can do the same thing that they can do. So what the state
Absolutely can do it. They can do it, and they can double what I just said.
Okay. So if the
And they can say no more paramedic service for the village of Dolton.
Okay.
That's a luxury.
Well, I don't think it's a luxury. I think it's
Well,
a necessity.
Less than half the state lives without paramedics. So,
if the state came in,
You see,
because whether or not we could pay
Excuse
our
me.
bills,
excuse me, Mr. Former Mayor. Now, do you see how in one sentence people could take things wrong? That man didn't mean, Mr. Kankar, he did not mean that the paramedics are a luxury, as in that was his personal opinion. He meant what he said. It's a luxury for the state. Do you know how many cities don't have money for paramedics? Y'all gotta listen. I declare y'all gotta listen.
it would be under receivership at that point. They come in and determine who should be here and who should not be here. In some cases, they say, okay, we'll keep the mayor, the police chief, and the fire chief. Everybody else is expendable. They bring their people in and they determine how the village is run. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
Option of what's going to happen. We're still going to be in a hole.
Oh, you're
If
going to
not
be in,
deeper.
you're going to be in a hole
So,
for 4 or 5 years until this gets straightened out. That's correct.
okay. And if the community continue to increase foreclosures because people can't afford to pay their taxes, you know, I don't see a solution here. I just don't see it.
I will tell you that the numbers for the loss in your tax collections don't reflect the downtrend, like you say, in downtrend in economic values. It's been steady in the 85 to 86% range after a year for the last 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
So it hasn't changed much.
So it
Okay.
hasn't changed.
Right.
And you looked at
That's 4 or 5
communities
years.
similar to Dalton.
No, I look. That's Dalton's numbers.
Those are Dalton's
That's right.
numbers.
That's right.
So you feel
Whoa.
that this increase could possibly stabilize us in the next 5 years?
You don't have any choice. I don't know what else to tell you.
No, I'm asking you a question. You say
Okay.
you don't have any choice, but you're predicting.
Oh, my thought is that I don't think the tax loss is going to get any worse. Correct.
Okay, I just don't
Yeah.
see where the residents are going
Right.
to be able to pay this higher tax. They're getting an increase in their water bills. Everything is increasing. And I think in this community, we have a lot of seniors on fixed incomes. So their income doesn't change, but these increases continue to come.
Well, I mean, the good thing about seniors is they're eligible of all types of tax postponements, tax exemptions,
which
which
cause people like myself taxes to go up because
Right.
I don't qualify for those
Right.
exemptions.
Wow.
You know,
Hold on. You see how contradictory y'all are? Now you came at him. I don't want to say acting like, because it could have been sincere. So you want to know and make sure the seniors are okay. He said, hey, they're going to be okay. You turn around and say, oh, well, basically what you're saying is the seniors going to be okay on my back? On my taxpayer dime? Oh, no. Oh, no. That's what you're saying. That's what you're asking now. Like, wait a minute. This is what villages are for. You can't put in a little extra taxes to help your senior citizens that y'all care about, that y'all say nobody cares about. But this part I did not understand. I thought it was very genuine. Like, what about our seniors? And it's like, oh shoot, well, they got exemptions and they got this and they got that. And it was immediately, well, I don't have that, and it's on my tax paying dollars. Come on now, can't be on both sides of the fence.
I understand
Are the
that.
professionals. I'm saying,
No.
have you viewed it? You only telling me about taxes. Have you even looked at anything else?
Yes.
Okay, what other things have you viewed that might help us offset raising the taxes 4%? That might not be 4%. Maybe you may raise it 1%. What other?
You raised the water and sewer bills. You have the lowest rate around 20 municipalities in this area. Your rate is so low, it's ridiculous.
And what?
So
how are our
raise that up there.
How are our finances being utilized?
Pardon?
How are our finances? How can we find out how the monies that's coming in being utilized to have us? You already said it was just properties that are vacant. Maybe 100%, maybe 90 houses. How many houses are empty that's causing this deficit? What other things are causing deficit in our revenue that's coming in? Because I pay almost $6,000 in taxes. That's a lot of money. And now you're going to take it up to $10,000. How am I going to live?
Attorney Kankar, her concern too, we can answer that. She says she pays approximately $6,000 a year in real estate taxes. How much of an increase would she actually see approximately?
If some of you have those charts that we passed out, you can take a look. So you can.
She would have an increase of $230.
So it won't go up to 10,000.
$230.
She thought it would go up to 10,000.
Yes.
Just so we put clarity.
It's $230 based upon $6,000 property tax. It's $230 annually.
Yes.
It equates to 64 cents a day.
Yeah.
And $19 a month.
So that's assuming that all the ordinances are passed. So that's assuming everything. It's assuming everything.
Okay, so I like when people break down numbers, because you see how people can think one thing. Now this lady, I'm not speaking about her or anything. I'm just saying she genuinely thought that her taxes were going to go from $6,000 a year to $10,000 a year. This was a very valid way to break that down, so you don't have misunderstandings. People tend to not listen even when you're getting the facts. That was a very good fact.
I didn't receive a scale, so I'm interested in $13,000 a year taxes. How much would that increase? If you
13, you just add up 6 and 7 together, so that would be $498.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
If I can just comment
Go
briefly.
ahead, Trustee.
I think the way, or at least the way I look at it, is that our tax level represents what we want our service level to be, because we do have to make sure that we have enough services. And the feedback is great because Chief Collins needs more officers, and we all want to see our streets safer, as well as we need more firemen, we need more public works. So there's a lot of things that we need, and we just recognize that there has to be a delicate balance of what's the right tax level, compare that with what our service levels we expect. So as a representative, we want to know what everybody's feedback is, but we also we have to recognize that not doing a tax increase affects the amount that we are able to provide in terms of service. And of all things, we definitely do not want the state to make those decisions for us, because they have no clue about our town, our neighborhoods, and what's going on. Thank you.
Well, I agree, Trustee House. I agree with that. They absolutely don't. But here we are. Here we are. Seven years later? Yeah. Here we are, almost 17 years later, and this is what's happening. So then you look at the Democratic statewide party. Who are the connections that Mr. Lee was talking about? I mean, y'all are rich for now. Sad.
Thank you, Trustee House. That's exactly what I wanted to hit on a little bit, is the services. Because right now, I think we're operating on a deficit budget, are we not?
Yes.
And having said that, if you had a deficit, then immediately in my mind, something's got to give. I understand that you all have been doing cutbacks and asking people to take days off, and that still obviously isn't coming close to balancing the budget. I think we've had requests from both the police officers and the fire department to hire more people, because it's becoming, I think they use an unsafe situation. Okay. And I want to live in a safe town. I certainly don't want to see a tax increase. However, having been here for over 30 years, how could we not have had one? Right. Because we should have had one a long time ago. If we just look at the numbers, we should have had one. And maybe if we had it at the proper time, we wouldn't be talking the numbers we're talking now. That's correct. But also, you know, I think that for a long time, anytime I got a tax bill, I would get upset at the village, because how dare the village raise the taxes? But I think what we forget is that one very important point that was stated here today is that the village is only 28% of your tax bill. You have other taxing agents. A point that was made that kind of went, but we need to start taking that and look at it is, if the school district is hiring another person for $100,000, every year the school district has a tax levy. Each school district. And most of them, it's an increase in taxes. I'll talk about District 205 and know a little bit about that. You're paying right now back $30 million.
Wow.
That was borrowed last year.
District
that no one knows anything about, because you don't see it as an increase on your bill, but you didn't see it as a decrease because they just finished paying off one. Okay, so a $50 million debt. Now we're going into a $30 million debt, and that's not going to touch what District 205 really needs. They're probably going to look at another $30 million. But what I'm saying is that we have to take all these things in consideration, because if the school districts didn't tax, then maybe we would have more money here in the village to, you know, from your taxes to do things that need to be done. So I don't want to see a tax increase because I want to fix income, and it's going to hurt. But if I got to live here, I want to live in a village that I've been living in for 30 some years that I've come accustomed to. I hate to think about us not getting things done. We've got to, and this is no dig toward anybody. Everybody knows I don't play politics. I'm not for this one. I'm not for that one. I'm for all you all, because you all have to work as a team. Our infrastructure is terrible. I mean, these streets have potholes in it, and they're just caving in. And I know that in order to do that, you need money. Okay. If I got to live in a village, I want to live in a nice village. So it sounds like the attorney put it, Pay me now, pay me later. There's no choice. You know,
Right.
if this is what we have to do to get it going, okay. And nobody better say anything about this. I'll cut back on a meal. Okay. I'll do that to try to get things done. Okay. But what we've got to do, and it's imperative that we start doing it not tomorrow, right now, today. All of us have to work together. We talk about accountability. Yeah, I'm going to hold everybody up here accountable, but they have to hold us accountable as well. So with the accountability piece, please, you all, from here on out, don't play politics. If we need a tax increase, don't say, well, I may not get a vote. Tell us the truth. Just tell us where we are. We're you know, I'm a big boy. No comment. Okay. And I can take it. I may not like it, but if that's what it is, that's what it is. And right now, you know, and I heard all the suggestions, but all the suggestions seem to be not enough to really get where we need to be. So I'm just hopeful that now that we see that things, if we don't get involved, can fall apart, you all, us, all of us, have to start holding our school districts accountable as well. Okay? We got to hold them accountable as well, because, you know, you weren't asked to vote on that 30 million. They just did it.
Right.
Okay? And they can do it again.
Right.
And again. And again. And what's that $100,000 person doing? How is that transcending to the classroom and a better education for our kids? So yes, I'm holding you accountable, but I hold the school district accountable too. Why? Because I want you to hold me accountable for me doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm upset, and I'm not upset, because this tax increase should have been talked about years ago. Thank you.
Wow.
Members of the board, now that the floor has been closed, the mayor read Ordinance A. My suggestion is, in light of Vince's comments regarding that this is really a package, I'll read the title of the other ordinances, and then any objection to an omnibus vote, single vote on the measures?
No objection.
Item B is ordinance number 17-037, an ordinance abating taxes for the $2,930,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2004C, for the 2017-18 tax years in the village of
So
Dolton.
empty.
Item C is ordinance number 17-038, an ordinance abating taxes for the 2.275 million general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2004D, for the 2017-18 tax years in the village of Dolton. Item D is ordinance number 17-039, an ordinance imposing taxes for the 11,535,000 general obligation bonds, Series 2009A, for the 2017-2025 tax years, and authorizing a tax escrow account for the village of Dolton. Item E is ordinance number 17-040, an ordinance imposing taxes for the 5,455,000 taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2009B, for the 2017-2018 tax years, and authorizing a tax
2028.
Is that 2017-28 tax years, and authorizing a tax escrow account for the village of Dolton. Finally, ordinance number 17-041, an ordinance imposing taxes for the 12,665,000 taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2009C, for the 2017-2023 tax years, and authorizing a tax escrow account for the village of Dolton.
I make a motion to include items A through F.
Second. It's been motion. Is there any further? Okay, it's been motioned to accept items A through F, and seconded by motion by Trustee Muhammad, and seconded by Trustee Pearson. Any discussion?
Let's see how
No
they walk.
discussion, board roll call.
Trustee Muhammad,
Aye.
Trustee Stubbs,
Aye.
Trustee House,
Aye.
Trustee Denton,
Aye.
Trustee Pearson,
Aye.
Trustee Henyard is absent.
Okay, 5 ayes, motion carries to package the ordinance 8 through F. Motion passes.
So they passed the motion. They passed it. That's good. But this was a really good example of a couple of things. Number one, this was 7 years ago. And 7 years ago, based upon facts, they said the state could come in and take over. So it's 2024. The money's frozen, stuff is happening. But this is how I want to end this, because shout out to, if anybody knows who the last gentleman that spoke was, if anybody knows who that is, let me know. Because everything that he said makes sense. We're a village. We have more of a responsibility to make sure that things are up to par. That includes paying taxes. His example was a wonderful example of, hey, I see taxes gotta get raised. I get mad. He, joked about it. Hey, I could skip a meal. I'm a big guy. All of this, what y'all doing is so hurtful to each other. All it takes is listening. That's all. We're going to end there, because like I said, I don't have any. How can you have judgment on anybody that don't listen? So I think that this was a very good reminder that October 19th, 2017, the village of Dolton was clearly told that you guys are headed towards the state taking over. And now here in 2024, if that option is still on the table, which it definitely seems like it is, I'm not sure why we're looking for the feds. I'm not sure, and I'm not saying looking for the Fed. I'm not sure why we're looking. I'm not sure why we're looking, because they're there. Let them do their job. Your job as residents is to figure out, whatever the outcome is, that you all get what it is that you need as residents. Because if the state comes in, blah, 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 it doesn't matter who's in the seat. The game doesn't change. Only the play. That's life. That's politics. That's life. It don't matter who's sitting in that seat. And with that, I hope that you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and as always, sending you love and light. We're out.